Okay, so I'm back, and we're going to be going live with Trident Fight Gear again. Like I was saying before, I haven't had any people that have, made merchandise or started a company like that. So, be pretty interesting to talk to somebody who's done that kind of stuff. So, what I'm going to do is bring them in here, and we'll start.
What's
All right,
up, Todd?
how you doing, man?
Sorry, I'm in my called
You
office
may want to
truck.
turn on a light or something. It's kind of dark. May not be able to see you, but
I tried to get as light as I could here. Am I pretty dim?
okay, that's a little bit better.
All right.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's all right. So before we start, maybe you could introduce yourself if there's anybody watching this who's not
Well, my
familiar
name
with
is
you.
Marcos Ramirez. I'm from San Diego, California, and I'm the owner and operator of Trident Fight Gear. I've been a student of Muay Thai since approximately 13 years old. A father of eight, husband, got a couple small businesses here in San Diego, and just an absolute lover of Muay Thai and all combat sports for sure. Been training since I was about, like I said, 13, 14 years old. Had a really good opportunity to study under some serious, legitimate, masters here in San Diego. And it eventually brought me into fight gear.
Now, when was it that you decided to maybe look into doing fight
Well, it
gear? Kind of
actually
take me
is
back to when that was.
relatively new. It's only about a 6-year journey that got me to where I'm at right now. Um, like I said, I started competing late in life, with that many children and working. It was just a family martial art to me. And I found myself in Muay Thai, as many do in different, perspective or respective styles. And I competed late in my 30s, and I was buying fight gear from another brand, and they took a liking to me, and I took a liking to them. And after I retired from my very modest amateur career, I went on to help them push their gear because, like all us old guys, we want to stay relevant and stay in the game. And I loved it that much that I eventually went off and started my own, and I'm just about 3 years now.
Now, when you were pushing their gear, was that kind of where you got the knowledge to
Well,
maybe
I
take
gotta
that
say,
jump?
I'm a gear snob. I always have been. So I always knew good gear and what I liked,
Okay.
and based on performance. And I just, I really didn't want to get into it after that. After my first experience with the first fight gear company that I helped kind of push, I didn't really want to be honest with you. It kind of like, it's when you hear they say you don't want to see the sausage being made. It kind of did that a little bit. It kind of took away the love and the romance of it, because you kind of saw behind closed doors what everything was once you get into that position. And so I really wasn't going to do it, but I had such a good support of the fighters that I already did meet, the promoters, the coaches, and they just encouraged me to say, "Hey, man, do your own thing, and we love to follow you and just support you." And that's kind of what happened. And now here we are, 3 4 years later, and we've had an amazing time with fighters. Some of the best people I've ever met are fighters and coaches. They really are.
But what I mean is like when you're working for somebody, like helping them, it's a huge undertaking for you to do it yourself. What made you think, okay, I can do this?
um for those that know me, we're all still trying to figure that out. I had I'm not going to name drop all night, but I had the opportunity to be around another fight gear brand that is very established, and he gave me some really good advice that You're not going to get wealthy in this. You're really not. And it's all about margins. And the game is kind of rigged, you know, and now we're kind of talking on that level, Todd. You know, the game's kind of rigged with manufacturing and those contacts, and it's a very small industry. You know, I mean, it comes down to those patterns, the patterns on how those gloves are made and the materials you used. And it's like everything is constantly playing catch up. And I just thought, I'm going for it. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I feed off the people around me really well. And when I had their blessing of, hey, we're going to follow you, just do your own thing. And it's still a learning curve that I'm still on every day, literally. Every week is a learning curve. I learn more about the industry, about margins, about, you know, because let's face it, from the time that it is an idea in my head on a pattern to the time that it's in the customer's hands, it's going through 18 different phases until it's in their hands, from manufacturing to shipping to marketing to everything else. My background, believe it or not, is in parking lot striping and asphalt. I'm a striper. I paint those lines that you can't park in. That's what I've done my whole life. And I've just kind of parlayed everything that I've learned from customer service. It doesn't matter if you're selling widgets, doesn't matter if you're whatever it is. If it's a product, service, it all kind of has the same core baseline of business, which is commerce. And if you understand commerce, you could literally turn anything into a business like that, which this gig economy is showing us that that's exactly what's happening. So I just love colors and geometry and all these other weird little things that can actually be very helpful when you're coming up with a gear brand. And I just went for it. And the more that I put into this, the more it's really given back to me with all the people that I've met.
So you think like when you were dealing with that other company said that helped you, you had enough of the X's and O's to where you could
No,
kind of try to do it.
still not. Even once I left, I was only with them for a couple of years, maybe 2 years, 3 years. And all that did was really give me the time to get my hands dirty, if you will, and put me up there with all the different promotions and push their brand. But at the time I wasn't, you got to remember, Todd, that at the time I wasn't planning on starting Trident. You know, I was just helping them do their thing, and uh, just enjoying being on the other side, seeing the different aspects of combat sports, um, and trying to bring the business side of it together. And that's what I was learning. So I'm just a student of life altogether. Wherever I'm at, I'm an absolute sponge. If you talk to my wife, she's sick of it. She's sick of all the new different things that I go wild, but she's so supportive, and she's a big part of Trident, and she's a big part of me. And so she encourages me to do it. And it's still a learning curve. I wish I had more definitive descriptions for you, but it literally is a learning curve. I'm competing with all these big brands, Twins, Fairtex, Triumph United, all these big brands. But having an eye for detail, I realize what it's going to take as far as the product, as far as how it feels in your hand. But our method of advertisement, how we get it out there, is so different. Even 15 years ago, it was different. All the competitors that that I'm facing right now, they had already had their hands in it for years. So they had all those other resources and mechanisms at their disposal before we only had Instagram, Facebook, all these other things. So that I think right now for everybody is the hardest learning curve of all, because you can't really reach anyone other than that. And that's kind of where we're at with that.
Now, when you started, I mean, not getting into money, but was it like, okay, I need X amount, or did you need to get a loan to do
Um,
it? How does that work?
I'm very, very fortunate that I have other businesses. And straight out, man, some guys build hot rods with their extra money. Some guys go on trips with their extra money. I build fight gear with my extra money. It's like anything else. If you're a businessman or you're an entrepreneur or you're a husband and father that's trying to go from their first house to they're paying for their backyard. Everything is supplemented by everything else. So, my one company
Right.
basically sponsors everybody. And the honest truth is, unless you're making profit, it's just a hobby. And that really is the dirty secret about it. And you got to sell a lot of gloves, man. You got to sell a lot of gloves and shin guards and hand wraps to really, make a profit. And then you got to turn right around and put that right back in. And that's what I've done for the last 4 years. I've literally taken nothing out of Trident. I've put 150% back into it, into my fighters, into my promotions, into everything else I have going on, because there's no way that I'm going to be able to compete with all these bigger brands unless I do that, unless I, have these relationships with these fighters and gyms and coaches, and start from the bottom. But you know what, man? I love that. I had a real big epiphany this year because I'm just hitting my 3rd year, and it's like, excuse me, what are we going to do with this? We can continue to go with how we're going at it and just break even and keep doing that. And I'm okay with that. I'm coming to find out that I love this level more than the big level. And I don't want to get into what's happening in combat big sports, but you see there's a lot of stuff going on right now, man. And I don't want to have any part of that right now. Maybe later on when the brand gets bigger, and we're Venom, I really give it up to Venom. They have beautiful designs, and I'm really happy that Venom and UFC, hooked up. Venom is a Muay Thai brand before it was a MMA brand. So I love to see that because that gives me hope. And if you know the Reebok saga, where all those guys went, and you hear about all that, it gets down to Venom, and so maybe one day we'll get there. But I love where I'm at right now because I literally can reach out and see the difference that we're making. With these amateur fighters and these young pros, that's really special to me because that's what the difference is, man. And that's what I think about it.
Now, what I think one advantage you might have is, when guys reach like a certain level, maybe they're comfortable creatively and they aren't really making stuff that's
Well, the
interesting
way that
anymore.
I combat that is that I'm very lucky. Okay, I'm very, very fortunate and lucky that, again, and through all of this, I'm learning more about myself. That's the most amazing thing about that is, again, I'm an modest amateur fighter. Okay, but seeing the process, and I've been very fortunate to have great teachers to show me the process of things that I appreciated all along the way, and I just think that I can do more.
No, what I mean is like the ones that have reached a certain level. Like I didn't even know Triumph United was still making stuff.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like I knew that back in
right.
2008, 2009, but I haven't seen anything. Maybe it's because I don't know, maybe I'm not keeping up with it, but the ones I see on my feed
Hmm.
are like smaller ones that are being real creative. The ones who are already successful don't necessarily have to be as creative anymore. They've already reached this
Right.
level
Well,
of comfort.
sorry, I get long-winded
You know
sometimes.
what I mean?
I found in this process that one of my strong points is I am really good with pattern recognition. I can see the patterns of where the trend is going early on, and I try to be a little bit ahead of that, Also, my weird brain loves colors, frequencies, geometry. I, one of my guilty pleasures is learning geometry and astrology and all these other myths that our society is built on. If people really look around, they see that all of the Greek and Roman myths are so deeply rooted into our culture, into advertisement, into everything, but we don't realize it because we're just consumers. We don't care how it gets to us. We know when we like green Tridents. Like, how come I like that? I don't know. It's just something about it that pops out to me. And so I have a natural, pattern recognition of that. And I just try to apply that. And I think that's what everyone else was using, whether it's marketing or whatever. I think it's all the same thing. And you just try to keep it as relevant as possible. There's nothing new under the sun ever. Everything is just always regurgitated, and it always just fits the times. And that's what I try. I try to
Now, when you
leverage off of
started,
that. Why do you think that Fortune 500 companies, make their mergers and do all these big things in the spring? Because this place we live in called Earth has this huge explosion of energy in what we call the spring. And that's why babies are born in the spring. That's why all, the flowers pop in the spring. It's this place we live in, and the deeper we get into talking, you're going to see who I really am. I'm one of those weird guys, man, that really believes in this realm that we live in, that it's way more physical and etherical than we really know. And I try to apply that to try to fight gear. I'm a lover of Greek myth and in medieval warfare and the hero's journey, and that is what Trident's about. I honestly believe that all of our fighters in our combat sports community, if they're right that we were hunters and gatherers, all of us are definitely the hunters. There's no doubt in my mind that all of us, as we see, and we don't know why we want to fight. Everybody wants to fight, but we don't know why. It's this weird primordial thing where either we're chasing demons or we're trying. No one can really put their hand on it. I've had this conversation so many times. We don't know why. I don't think we even have the language to describe why we like to fight. We don't know if it's something that was ingrained in us through, is it nurture or nature? I don't know. We don't know. But we know that we look up to those people that accomplish things that the average person wouldn't try to accomplish. And that goes across the board, right? I mean, it started with football and everything else. All the orthodox sports, that's how they've been able to use that, that word. I'm forgetting the word at the moment, but no, I got to say it. It is I can't forget, but Hercules and Zeus and all of those different mythical characters, we want to be able to achieve those things. So
now, were you around the sport like when Tap Out was
oh
coming out,
yeah,
for
man,
example?
there's so many, but at that time I was just, again, I was a consumer, young Muay Thai kid, but again, my mind and my eyes were always open to all those things. Those Tap Out guys, man, they really say it's a bummer that their clothes ended up in Ross. It's a real bummer though. But if Mask and what was the tall guy's name, and Punk Ass and all those guys, what they were doing, I mean, they discovered Cowboy Cerrone, right? I mean, back when he had the full red and white blue Muay Thai shorts, and they kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller until he kept trying. So they all have their place. everything is necessary evil in this, Todd. And that's the biggest thing, is that you need the promoters. You have to have the promoters. You have to have the sanctioning bodies. You have to have the sponsors, or the whole machine doesn't work. And to see where that went, and as I get deeper and I create more contacts, it's very, very cool that I get to hear all the stories of Warrior and Tim Sylvia and all these different brands that came and went. And it just really honestly feels like, because of the state of combat sports in general, it's an ever, we're still morphing into what it's going to be. And that's the most special thing and unique thing that I think we have going for us in combat sports. Just like it mirrors what's going on in society right now. Like, combat sports is still growing up and learning how they're going to be. And all those brands went all the way through it. Valley Tudo, I love Dan Diaz out at Muay Thai Death Squad, and Hans Molenkamp out at Triumph United. All these guys are relevant. It's like anything else. You can't take away anything from what all of these guys did. It's just, and that's the other thing. I learned last year that I know how to build a business. A business has certain aspects on how it needs to grow. But the combat sports thing is different, because in parking lot striping, my paint brand is not putting their life on the line. So there's definitely a different aspect of how you have to approach combat sports. And so that itself is the monkey wrench in business, because the dirty secret is, I don't care if you're Dana, I don't care if you're the weekend Warrior promotion down there. Every single show is a gamble. Every single one is, because you could pay all the people, you could put out all the gear, but it comes down to those ticket sales and what sponsors are involved. And so that at its core is what we're trying to separate and push that, that baseline of broke and not making any profit. You're trying to push that out as far as you can, so you can do the next one and the next one. So everybody listening, amateurs, young pros, be nice to your promoters and your sponsors and everybody else, man, because they're just like you. We're all learning this thing. It's not like the NFL, where it's had years and years and everything is so dialed in. It's not dialed in. Every single deal with every fighter is totally different. The only standard in this, industry, is that there is no standard. And so, and I don't know, I can't even say until. I don't know if it's ever going to be like that. Boxing didn't do it, and now we have, all these different, offshoots of influencer fighters and all these other things. And in business, when you look at it from a business point of view, they all have their place. They all have their markets, and we like to point at all of them and go, well, you're diminishing me, and you're diminishing me, and you're not this, and you're not that. Well, guess what, guys? We're all together. We're all together. And I think once we realize that, but, I can't even say once we realize that, because it's still so up in the air. But I'm just really excited to be a part of it. I really am. I want to see what I can do. And all I'm trying to do with Trident Fight Gear, just like anything, I'm looking at it from a business point of view, where you got to invest for a minimum 5 years, is what they always say. And once you get there, you'll see where you're going. And year one was different than two. We're now in our third, going in our fourth, and every year has completely changed. We had a great year this year. Big shout out and win to Diego Matrix Paez out of, classic fight team, got his WCK world title. So proud of that kid. Overcame, some freak accidents, and amazing father, amazing little son, amazing camp. He's one of 3 brothers out there in Costa Mesa area. They're just killing it in the Muay Thai game. And I just want to give them a shout out because they're just great guys. It's funny because you go from sponsoring to friends, and then I get to live vicariously through these guys, and I'm not gonna mince words, man. I love it. I freaking love it. It keeps me coming back. So big shout out to Diego. Congratulations on your world title, my friend, and Chris, who's an absolute stud. His other brother, and Mario and Tyler and everyone out there at Classic. So we'll see what happens. It's taken me all over the country over the last couple of years. So you got to find a rhythm. You got to find a rhythm and spend your money where you need to, because it goes quick. And at the end of the day, sponsoring is glorified advertisement. That's all it is. But it's advertisement that can actually make a difference. It's like I could spend, if my budget is $10,000 a year on sponsoring fighters, giving away gear, all this stuff, I could do that, or I could take the 10,000 and just give it to Instagram, and hopefully their algorithm does what it's supposed to do. But because I'm a pattern recognition guy, Instagram ain't the thing, but it's the only mechanism that we have, to be able to do what we do. And I think if you figure out that algorithm and use it, and to all the amateurs, there's a couple things that I really wanted to get out in this podcast. To all the amateurs out there, you don't have to be a quote pro to carry yourself as one. The sooner that you guys can start carrying yourself as a pro, it is going to help you in your career. Okay? Maya Jean Rubin at Extreme Power Gym Oceanside, who is my dear, dear friend and my Jean of 22 years, always taught us that only about 1% to 2% of your students in your gym are going to compete. So that leaves 98% of your registered students that just want to learn the martial art. So based on those numbers, competition is a business. The second that you compete, you are now entering into the business world. Okay? And the sooner that you can understand that transition, and every fighter, every student is going to go from that point of, okay, I'm going to have my first couple fights to, is this what I want? That transition is going to be natural for everybody. That's totally normal. But that transition should be 5 fights. By about 5 fights, you should know that this is what you want to do or you don't want to do. And if you do, you need to make a decision as quickly as you can. Your window is this big. I can't speak for all combat sports, but I will speak for Muay Thai. The only opinion of your skill set that matters is the ties in traditional Muay Thai. Okay? I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from that, but that's the shit. Only the ties know what Muay Thai is. So that being said, our window's this big, man. Those kids have been doing it since they were 3 years old. We're way behind. We're way, 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 way behind. France, way further along. A big part of Europe, they started way before us. So, and there's not a lot of money in Muay Thai. There's just not. And so it has to be something that you love and do. And the sooner that you can be a professional and carry yourself as one, the better it's going to serve you. And that goes into family, into business, time management. You don't own time. You think you do, but you don't own it. And this window is so small. And then now the MMA is here and very present. there's wrestlers, there's jujitsu guys. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir about that, about how that happens. But the sooner these amateurs can really take it seriously and go, okay, this is what I want to do, and it's like, get rid of your girlfriends. All you're gonna do is go to school, work, train, and that's it. And I'm actually trying to dissuade more people these days than persuade people to get into this, because it has to be something that you really want to do, man. Like I said earlier, are you chasing demons? Are you trying to get over some kind of fear? And it's a great mechanism for that. That's what's great about combat sports, is that it gives you that outlet to do that. Camaraderie, all that stuff. It's beautiful. It's all useful. But getting back to the brand, all of that is inclusive of what I've learned and what I'm trying to push with Trident Fight Gear.
Now let's talk about kind of like you mentioned fighters that you work with. What is it that you look for when maybe you sponsor somebody? How
Good
do you make those
question,
decisions?
and I love that question. I can tell you what I'm looking for. Well, that's a really good question, because every sponsor is totally different. But the best advice I can give, because I can't speak for other people, but again, with the pattern recognition thing, understand your markets, young fighters. Understand that once you take on being, a fighter under sponsor contract, whether that's verbal or that's on paper, you're expected to carry yourself. And again, sponsorship is glorified advertisement. That's what it is, okay? We are hoping that when we sponsor you, you're pushing our brand, and your friends, your family, your gym members, the people around you, we're hoping that they support you and buy our gear, which it's all just a revolving circle, right? I mean, that's what we're trying to do. When you buy a pair of Jordans, it's Mike on the side of the Jordans, and you're buying it because of him. It's commerce, everybody. It's not life. It's commerce. It's your feel, your style, your everything. It's not life. It doesn't have anything to do with real life. That's the biggest thing that I can give you. It doesn't matter what hat you're wearing. It doesn't matter. It's your style. Some people like hot sauce on their food, some don't. At the end of the day, it's commerce. So that's the number one thing. So that being said, once you get a sponsor, you're now beholden, and you have a somewhat of a responsibility to that. And your sponsors are going to want you to push their gear. And again, it all depends on the deal that you have with them. But that's at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We are melding our market, which is Trident Fight Gear market, with this new fighter that I'm trying to bring in. And so we're looking at that fighter going, okay, he carries himself really well. When he's not in the ring, he's very honorable. That gym is kind of known to be a little rowdy. Is that best for us? Like, don't think all that stuff is not going into the consideration, because it absolutely is. It's like you buying a pair of Nikes. You're like, yeah, it's a little loose on my heel, but I really like how it feels on my toes. So that's all we're doing as sponsors. We're breaking you down, going, okay, yeah, this kid's really good, and we see where he can go there. And just like anything, it's just scouting. It's scouting. That's it. And you're trying to see if they're going to be a good representative of your brand, and they're going to follow through. And how big is his ego? Does he think he's better than he is? Do we think we're better than we are? I mean, that's all these new things that I'm thinking of right now. I don't have a team of 15 people, going, okay, let's do this, and you do that, and I do this. Like, I'm trying to bring all this together and learn, simultaneously as they're learning. But again, just approach everything be your genuine self always. That's the best thing. Just be your genuine self, and don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to say no. Say, you know what? I love you, Trident Fight Gear, but you're a little edgy for me. I like a little more of a traditional Muay Thai style. I see what you're doing and this and that, and that's okay. It's okay to disagree, and everybody can do their own thing, but just be honest. I have a few mantras and catchphrases that I live by. Number one, okay, everyone listen to this. Write this down. You're going to love it. Under promise and over perform. Under promise and over perform. I don't know where I heard it, but I live my life every day like that. And just under promise and over perform. Be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there. Do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. And that is universal across everything. Your sparring partners, your coaches, your family, everything. Those mantras will keep you, they have helped keep me in line with being a father of 8, grandfather of 1, business owner of 2, and still flying by the seat of my pants. So
Now, do you only sponsor Muay Thai fighters, or do you
primarily
sponsor MMA
Muay Thai
fighters as
because
well?
that's my bread and butter. I've been trying to kind of slow roll that to where I get a little more experience with those fighters. And I'm glad I did, because each of those are different markets. When you go to a traditional Muay Thai show, it's a lot different than when you go to an MMA show. The fans are different. The promoters are different. Everything is completely different. You go to boxing, it's a little bit different as well. So because my contacts primarily surrounded in Muay Thai, I was comfortable there. So I started there. I'm moving into MMA. We're releasing our boxing line in 23 with our boxing shoes and boxing style shorts and stuff. We already do produce MMA gloves that have been used at many different. When I say many, I mean 4 or 5 different promotions, all over the country. You're out there in Oklahoma, right? Yeah. So we've been out in Oklahoma and Arkansas. I love it out there. Great people, salt of the earth people, man. I can't get enough of Ardmore, Oklahoma. I love it up there. And just trying to get our ears wet with that. Again, it's a different vibe, but at the same time, it's all the same. At least from my perspective, it's MMA shorts instead of Muay Thai shorts. It's 10-ounce gloves instead of 4-ounce gloves, and it's kind of all the same. And then each different sport, kind of with those promoters, allows a little more room for for creative control. One big thing that I'm trying to change, at least on this side, is I've watched promoters walk on sponsors for so long that I'm just done with that. So many promoters are like, look, this is what we're going to do for you. And it's like, okay, you're going to take my $2,000. I'm going to provide all the gloves, and then I'm not going to get shit. I'm not going to get any love. I'm not going to do that. That's bullshit. Okay. I'm going to say that straight out. Okay. We're still selling.
Hold on, I can't hear you. Yeah, I
Say
think
again?
when you got up close to the phone, you couldn't hear you. Yeah. I think when you got close to the phone, it drowned out your sound.
You need us more than we need you. Okay. We're still selling our gear to gyms, direct to fighters, so it would behoove you guys to be like, okay, let's work together, because it's about brand melding. That is where this whole thing is going. And I'm just letting out gold here. Okay. Association is so underrated and overlooked. Okay. When you bring 2 brands together, whether it's a fighter and a brand, or 2 brands or whatever, the association sticks in people's minds. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it sticks in their mind. And the average combat sports fan, they're pumped up. They've had drinks. They've circled their week around this one fight. And so they're pumped up. So when their eyes are seeing the process happen between the venue, between the fighter, between the shorts, between everything, their eyes can't pick up everything all at once. They only will remember all those little things, and those little things are the details. And if the promoters and the sponsors work together, those details will be on point, and they will spend a little bit of extra money and time to make sure that event. Look, guys, I'm going to drop gold again. Fight promoters are glorified wedding planners. Okay? It's our job to make sure that the groom and the bride get married when they're supposed to. So all we're responsible for is making sure the fighters are there with their blood work, make sure this, make sure that. That's all we do. So, at the end of the day, there really should be no problems because those promoters really aren't doing it. They're just the ones orchestrating everything. And if you're focused and you're organized and you got a good team, that goes off out of the hitch. And in case in point, this last weekend, I was up in Seattle and we had a little Muay Thai show. And it was amazing venue, amazing people. There was probably only about 1,000 people, if 900, and I'm probably, it was probably 7. But that being said, everything went off. The venue was beautiful. Is because their team was on point and everybody loved it. And everybody was on the same page, and no one was trying to get one over on each other. And it just worked out really good, and I can't wait to get back there.
Now, I want to ask you, like, we had mentioned, like, Venom. So when the UFC had Reebok, I would assume Reebok is the bigger
internationally,
two,
yeah,
right?
You would think, obviously.
So is taking on, like, Venom as your official brand a step down or no?
Good question. I wouldn't say it's a step down. I think that all times when you are mixing brands, you're always trying to be relevant. And my honest, humble opinion, even though I wore, Reebok, in the 90s as a breakdancer, those Reebok shoes, I think that that's just not their place. And I think that the way that UFC was going from each fighter having their own sponsors to did it go from their own sponsors to Reebok? Did it go that way? Yeah. So once that happened, everything changes, right? I mean, they start getting money guaranteed from Reebok for doing what they're doing, and that's great. I mean, I have no problem with that, but when you say step up and down, in my personal opinion, I'm kind of biased. I loved it because it was a smaller brand, and I don't know the entire history of Venom, but I do remember that it always originated from the Muay Thai, industry, and then it went from there. I loved it. I think it was a step up personally, but it's like, what market are you trying to grab? I think the word Reebok only popped into I think it was just like a catchphrase name that made people, the average MMA person associate. Again, man, it's all spells, Todd. It's all spells, man, and it's all just words and association. And so when you hear Reebok, you just associate big time with that. But then the person that would take the extra moment to really think about it, they go, wait a second, Reebok, aren't they the ones in the 90s that had those 2 Velcro straps on those, high tops that they had leg warmers on? And then so, but by that time it didn't matter because they already captured the attention of the market that they were trying to do. Again, it's all commerce based, and you can't blame them for it because that's what fuels the fire. That's what fuels the motor, and it is what it is. But to get straight to your question, yeah, I think it's a step up, to be honest with you, because because Thailand, when it comes to Muay Thai, that is the mecca, and that's where Muay Thai shorts were made, and just their eye for combat sports and garments, I can say they knew what was going on, because all we have to really compare it to is Everlast and Ringside. Really, that's all we have as far as our Western culture is that. Century, Century didn't really make stuff. They make, they make protective gear early on, and that all came out of the karate industry, the Century stuff. So it really is still, to this day, right now, we are literally in the middle of it still coming to fruition, what it's going to be. And I think what it's going to be is just like anything else. It's who's on top, who's the main sponsor, and everything else comes second.
Tell me this, you have the Bellator model, the UFC model. Bellator still allow guys to have sponsors. UFC's making them have Venom.
I'm
What do you think
sorry, say
about
that
the
one
two
more time,
different
Todd.
methods? You have the Bellator brand where they're still allowing the fighters to have multiple different sponsors, and then you have the UFC style, which is Venom only. So tell me what you think about those
I mean,
two
there's not really
as
much
far as
to
the
say
different
other than to just point out the
approaches.
obvious, that it comes down to the flow of money and sponsorship. And Bellator obviously doesn't have the same kind of deal as UFC does with Venom, and they're able to produce and keep up with UFC and cater to their needs. And Bellator obviously isn't looking for that, and they don't want to get, you got to remember, every time that you try to cross these different industries, there's going to be a set of problems, and there's a lot more moving parts in the machine. So Scott is thinking in Bellator, look, I'm just trying to keep this thing floating, let alone trying to bring in big sponsors that are going to commit to, we don't know if we're going to be here in 2 years, so what, it's just so much easier. And not only that, I think that, and I'm going to say it, I think they look into that on how they pay their guys. Like, man, if we allow them to have their sponsors, they can make $5,000 on their shorts. So because they're going to make 5,000 on their shorts, and we allow them to do that, let's only pay. I'm just saying this is a possibility. I don't know at all. I'm just totally speculating and spitballing on this. But coming from a business point of view, you look at all those different assets and possibilities, and it's like, look, just like anything else, I have a couple fighters that I only give gear, and then some of them I do give monetary sponsorship as well. So it's like, literally every fighter is different, but to try to create a standard for your brand and for your business, I just think Bellator is like, yeah, I'd rather just let them do their thing, as long as there's no conflict of interest that we have to veto, then we'll just let them do what they do. And, we wish them the best. We hope they make $5,000 on their sponsors on the shorts. We hope they make $10,000, good for you, do that. But if I know that if I'm a big name brand combat sports promotion, if I know that they're making $5,000 on their shorts, I don't know. You kind of read between the lines. It goes into it. But at the end of the day, I like to think that these promotions are paying as much as they possibly, have the budget allow them.
Now, as we're kind of winding down the interview, maybe you could tell people like what you have coming next, or some of the things you might be
Next
doing
year,
next.
we're just gonna keep crushing, man. We're just gonna keep crushing and taking care of our roster fighters really well. You know, we finally, it took us about 3 years to really dial down our crew, you know, our core group of sponsored fighters. And I really want to, you know, really, you know, commit to them, and still commit to also the new promotion, you know, different promotions that we have coming up, those different promotions all over the country. And we're bringing out our boxing line in 2023. And next year, we're really going to focus on boxing and MMA. We're going to put extra special effort in that. We truly believe that we have a really good core here in Southern California with our Muay Thai community, and I really want to, you know, branch out into the boxing and MMA community for sure.
Now, tell people kind of
Well,
where they could follow some of
everything is
what you're
always going to
doing.
come back to Instagram. I mean, that's, you know, there's not a lot of moving parts with us. Everything is going to be done on Instagram, and we're going to try to extend our website into being a little more interactive. We're going to try to offer next year an ambassador program where we're again investing more into amateurs that are, and try to separate it, you know, because so many people, we're inundated constantly with people that want to be sponsored by us, and we love you guys. Thank you so much for wanting to represent us. We don't got venom pockets, you know. So we're really going to try to continue the amateur program into our pros, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, Marcus, you know, I want to thank you for taking time to do this. It's really cool to kind of pick your brain. I've never talked to anyone who's, you know, done a clothing line, even though I've talked to probably hundreds of people already in the industry. So this is kind of the first one. So it's really interesting. And yeah,
Oh,
if you ever want to come back
always. Let's
on or
do
do
it for a
something
couple
again,
months. Let me, you know,
it'd be
give me
awesome.
another quarter of the year, and let's try it right around April, and we'll see where we come. Okay.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. It's great talking to you. And
Absolutely, Todd.
until
Thank you
next
so
time, man.
much, man. We appreciate it. Later, everybody. Stay in tune. Bye.
Yeah, take care.